right, welcome back, pre-market traders. I want to welcome our first guest of the morning, Alan Brochstein, from, or what I call the cannabis analyst. He's with us today on his birthday. Happy birthday, Alan.
Hey, thank you, Kyle.
Um, now,
Happy birthday, Alan.
Now, as we know, you were just saying that why are you guys talking about gold when it's the green gold we should be talking about. Alan, today I want to take, and we got a lot of people in the chat that we're going to be talking about, the tickers, and I follow your letters really carefully over at 420investor.com. Talk to us a little bit before we get started. I know a big CNBC show came out last week on the cannabis industry, and there's a lot going on in that market. Can you set up for us what the market is like before we get into some specific tickers right now?
Sure. So last year you had a bunch of early adopters and they got ahead of the curve a little bit. I mean, it was very exciting after 2012. You had Washington and Colorado approved, but there was still a lot of uncertainty. A lot of the early companies weren't exactly the best companies. So this year it's totally different. We rocketed up in January 3rd or whatever the first day of the month was. And it has been no looking back since. I just looked at the February performance, and there's been no pullback. We just keep moving higher. And I noticed during February, I think there's 37 stocks that I took a look at in this Seeking Alpha article I just published. And I think maybe 13 of them were down. So it's not like every stock is going up every day, but the market's a lot smarter than it was a year ago. People are learning to distinguish between what's real and what's not real. And maybe the valuations are high, but we're getting better companies, a lot more interest, and people are really excited.
Great. Now let's, Dennis. The question I always have when I'm looking at these stocks, and folks, you got to realize that a lot of the stocks that are in this industry, like Alan just said, if they are penny stocks or OTCs, there's always a risk that comes with that. Alan, what do you see with that when you're looking at some plays or perhaps making a play inside your portfolio on your product 420 Investor? What kind of concerns come in when you're looking at penny stocks?
Yeah, that's a great question because it is kind of unfortunate that most of the stocks in the sector, there's probably 3 that we're tracking that are out that are not penny stocks. So I don't know.
What
Some
are
people
those
say
3? What are those
3. Well, we've talked about them before. I'll add a new name today, but the ones we've talked about before, GW Pharma,
Yeah.
and we talked about FULL, which is Full Circle Capital, last time I was on the show. And then there's a biotech IPO, and I considered it kind of marginal, but now I'm actually considering a little bit more. It's called CARA Therapeutics, symbol CARA. It was a NASDAQ IPO in February. It's done well. We had this is like an awesome story for 420 Investor. I can't keep up with everything. I need to, people joke that I've cloned myself. It's not true, but I actually need to, we're working on getting some more people. There's just too much going on. But CARA was one that I did a pretty good job of getting it out there so people would at least look at it. And we have some really smart subscribers, and they went with it. And one of our guys is an attorney, and he did some work and found out that they have a secret patent apparently. So a lot of the guys bought in on that. I mean, this is the beauty of 420 Investor. They don't need me to figure this stuff out.
That
That's
chart
CARA.
on that CARA, that has been on a tear here. I'm just looking. It looks like it stifled about a month ago, and it was down around $10. I'm looking.
Yeah, the IPO was at 11 in early February. It broke temporarily, and then all the brokers came out. I was really surprised they all had buys on it. You know how that works, but anyway, it's getting some attention. They're actually it's more related probably than I thought. Not only because they have a couple of patents on, but also, there's a big story out there, and I just saw last week. A lot of doctors and a lot of society are very concerned about overprescriptions of opioids. And so cannabis is hopefully going to be a replacement over time. I mean, right now, it's a big gray area. People that use it get a lot of relief, avoid opioid addiction and all the things that go with that. But doctors can't really prescribe it right now. The AMA doesn't have a pro-cannabis position. So it's going to take some time. That's why when GW Pharma hopefully gets its medicine approved in next year, doctors are going to get more on board. The doctors they want the FDA blessing basically.
Dennis,
is that like best in breed GWPH? Is that what you would say best in breed is here, Alan?
No doubt about it. Not in a lot of different ways, but they've been at it like we talked about since '98. public since '01. Lots of patents. They are truly. I mean, there's a couple of other guys that would like to be like them, but they're in a league of their own. But this CARA is interesting. They're the real deal also. That was one of the things that I picked up on real quick. CARA's management team, definitely high caliber. But I want to get back to what Kyle was talking about. So, because he asked a good question, what are we looking for? And I got to be careful because I came up with this term. Actually, my wife did, and I shared it. And it's kind of funny, but I don't want to get into this. But we call it passing the Inspector 420 is the term, but basically it's kind of funny. Last week, all I did was I said I had these conversations with these CEOs of these two companies. I'm not going to name the tickers. It's not even worth it. But they were up like 25% and 40% on Friday morning just because I told my people 15 minutes before the market open that I had very good conversations with the CEOs and I was kind of upgrading them to my watch list. I wasn't saying to buy them. Wasn't saying anything about it, but just that they kind of passed the 420 investor inspection. So Inspector 420 approved. I don't think the SEC would like that term, so I'm not going to use it. But so it's just I think the real point is that there's some real companies out here. This is the Wild West. I spend a lot of my time talking to people that are a lot smarter than me when it comes to what's going on in the industry. And the real deal, definitely the real deal. And unfortunately, they're in penny stocks. And so I'm hoping that we see, there was a company, MSIG. I think we talked about that last time, symbol MCIG. And they came out with, on Friday, a monthly, I guess they're doing now, investor presentation. And one of their slides explained all that's necessary for them to get uplisted to the NASDAQ would be their price. You have to have a $5 price, I believe. So, and they explain all the points that you need to do. That's what people are going to be focusing on pretty soon. And I've said it several times this year. We're going to see 1 or 2 uplistings in the next year, and we're going to see some new IPOs that are going to be really exciting. One's coming out of Canada, by the way.
Well, that's and I want to kind of harp on that point just one more time, Alan. Of although it's the wild, wild west out there, and although there is a lot of opportunity, with a big upside comes a potential for a big downside, and that risk is what needs to be mitigated. So when you go about looking at stocks in this sector, how are you gauging the lifeblood of these companies?
So, one of the big risks is just valuation in general. Even a company like GW that we can all agree, or most of us will agree, is a great company. Is it worth 1.2 billion? That's a fair question. Some of these other companies, the risks go beyond valuation. They go into, is FINRA going to come in or SEC going to come in and shut them down? So we try to break down the universe so that people understand which stocks are riskier than others, and to on all the stocks. And we have a very healthy debate. There's a lot of lightning rods in the industry. Some names where people are very galvanized. They're either pro or con, and we're lucky on our site. It's not like iHub or some of these other places where they start bashing each other. But we have some pretty spirited debates on some of these names. And my job, I feel, is to just make sure everybody knows what these risks are. There's no pun intended, high risk, definitely high risk in all these names, just because of the very nature. So we tend to focus on things like, are they SEC filers or not? That's an easy thing to determine, but you have to remember, just because they're filing with the SEC, I think Enron was also. So that's not going to save you. So we try to understand the valuation. There's a lot of people out there that are missing some very critical elements of the capital structure. They don't understand what convertible notes are, convertible preferred stock. So we try to point those things out. We try to, I talk a lot to the CEOs and sometimes some of the other people in these companies, and really try to make sure that their stories are consistent, that they make sense, that they seem to be long-term thinkers and not just trying to make a quick buck. So these are a lot of, there's a lot of behind-the-scenes work to kind of get comfortable. But even after doing all that, that's no guarantee, Kyle, against losses.
Alan, and that's. I was just going to say, that's the whole thing here. You're saying you're covering 37 different companies here. How many of these are going to survive? That's the question. Because whenever you get, like, I remember the internet bubble, there's always something, and there's only a few survivors there at the end. Of those 37 companies, like, how many can really be, the guys that are going to survive here, and which ones are those? So do you want to continue to focus on the best and breed? Like, do you want to focus on the CARA? Do you want to focus on the GWPH, or do you want to take flyers on some of these OTC names?
So I've got 1,000 people asking me to do stuff, and so they all have different views. Some of them want me to like name the flavor of the day sub penny stock where they can literally, quintuple their money in a day. So I try to point those out. I don't put a lot of time into them, but definitely we have some subscribers that want in on that action, and it's like the horse tracks. But just to be clear, there's probably over 100 names. I have literally about 65 or 66 names that I have that I'm tracking. That 37 number was just something, a smaller universe. I'm literally trying to keep up with 28 names. Of those 28 names, a lot of them I really don't like. So I think the way to think of it is there's a few companies that will be really good companies, and I feel like we've identified those already. No guarantees, but the subscribers are real. They understand very clearly which ones those are and why I think. I think some of them are very clearly very bad companies and they won't be around. And then a bunch of the rest, probably the middle 50%, we'll have to see. I mean, companies can change. They definitely can evolve. I have been very pleased that I feel like I'm very lucky. I've done a lot of work on how to properly motivate management. What's the best way to be a good leader as a management team? What are the best practices? I'm very aware of those. And a lot of these guys come to me and they say, we want to do things the right way. How should we do this? And, I give that advice for free because I want it to happen. And so these are the companies that I like. When they're trying to do things the right way, I make sure that our subscribers are aware of that.
Dennis, I got a question too. So looking at even at CARA Therapeutics, as we're talking about a little more of the technicals, CARA is the ticker. With this just IPOing in most of the levels uncharted territory, how do you look at a stock like this, and how do you put importance anywhere where people are bulls or bears are making stands?
It's so hard when you've got stocks moving 100% in 2-3 weeks. Like I've always made my career, and I've been a prop trader for 15 years by playing defense. And it's hard to play defense on stuff like this. If you're a short-term scalper, short-term trader, you gotta look at the lows that are made the previous day. You gotta look at key levels. I mean, they do come into play. 18 was the low on Friday. Where is it trading this morning on the pullback? $18 even. These levels do come into play. You've got to also be aware of the overall trend. I mean, Alan's right. The trend on these things this year have been straight up. They came in, this thing IPOs 3 weeks ago or a month ago, and basically is doubled. So you're looking, pullbacks probably still, the trend is your friend, and pullbacks are probably going to be bought on stuff like this too. Made a new high, 21.22. The only concern here from Friday's action, I would say, obviously, is that it went up to 21.22. That looked, like it rallied another $3 here, and then pulled back and closed weak. That's kind of a reversal day here. So if this thing starts taking out $18, then you got to air all the way down to the previous day's low of 16. So that's the only way you can approach these things. But it is scary. Alan, you're right. There's a lot of risk in these things here. And short-term trading, sometimes, you can get hurt here in a lot of these things.
And volume.
Dennis, I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying, whenever you're looking at, especially stocks that might not be listed on the NASDAQ or NYSE, you need to see volume going somewhere. Otherwise, you'll get trapped so quick.
Well, this thing, the volume's been picking up nicely. And so, I mean, look, I'm sure back in the day when Google first came out, it had a chart like this too. And people were like, I don't want to buy it. I'm not saying this is a Google, but, who knows where this thing could go? It doesn't have, it's, less than $1 billion market cap. I really don't know the answer. But what I've been telling people is watch that 10-day moving average. And so, so for fresh money, it's kind of dangerous to come in here at 18. The 10-day moving average is at 15. You can take a quick 3-point hit. But that's kind of, I think you got to just pick some rules and stick to them on trading situations like this one.
I do agree. Well, Alan, happy birthday, man. I appreciate you coming on for Monday. We're really looking forward to what you got going on at the 420 Investor. I mean, if anything, what you promote is, doing your research, making sure you understand the risk, especially in this. There is an opportunity in this, emerging sector. 2014 is going to be a heck of a year for it. But, making sure that your risk can justify your reward is an extremely important point. I know that you preach it, up and down all day. So thanks for coming on, buddy, and happy birthday.
Okay, thanks on both those. Talk to you guys soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Alan.